I like seeing dogs. Um, so, as you know, I'm here to talk about things, and notably, right now I'll be talking about crypto once again, specifically Bitcoin and Litecoin for the win. Why is it that I've been talking about Litecoin so much in recent videos? Well, if you've watched my recent videos, you'll know it's because I consider Litecoin to be a highly undervalued asset compared to Bitcoin. Why is that? Well, if you haven't been watching my videos, I'll just tell you real quick, and you can go watch previous videos of mine to see in greater depth. But basically, Litecoin has all of the same great qualities that Bitcoin has. The only difference is there's 4 times the supply, the max supply of Litecoin than there is of Bitcoin. Meaning Bitcoin has a max supply of 21 million, and Litecoin has a max supply of 84 million. And Litecoin has literally all of the same tech and all of the same wonderful properties of being divisible and portable and immutable, etc., as Bitcoin. And on top of that, all of the code eventually ends up in Bitcoin by the core devs is first tested on Litecoin. After all, that was the purpose of its creation by Charlie Lee. Litecoin hasn't gone down for any significant period of time at all. Right? It's always been running, works just fine, and has done basically what it was set out to do and continues to do so. Now, does that mean that Litecoin will eventually reach the dizzying heights of Bitcoin's price or even a quarter of it because there's 4 times as many coins as there are Litecoins as there are Bitcoins? That doesn't have to mean that at all. But even if it gets to be worth 10% of what Bitcoin is, that's still a massive increase over its current price, which I recently, I said it multiple times even, I said that the price of Litecoin now, which is roughly $65, compared to the 65,000 or 63,000 price of Bitcoin, is 1%, but it's not, obviously, it's 0.1%, right? You can get almost 1,000 Litecoin for every Bitcoin, right? That's significant. And when you consider there's only 4 times as many Litecoin as Bitcoin, and it has all the same tech and all the same properties as Bitcoin, then stacking 1,000 Litecoin for the price of 1 Bitcoin is a far better value proposition than the 4-to-1 ratio of the max supply. Because if Litecoin goes up even to 1% of the price of Bitcoin, currently 1% of the price of Bitcoin is about $650, right, which is about 10 times the price of Litecoin. So that would be a 10x return on Litecoin to just go up to 1% of the price. Now, could it be that Bitcoin will go 10x in the next year? It's possible. Is it more probable that whatever the amount Bitcoin actually goes up, Litecoin will actually have greater returns over the coming year when people expect to see a lot of buy pressure, although the VEPs will tell you way in advance what that buy pressure is likely to go to. Yeah, it is actually very possible and very probable that you'll see greater returns on your Litecoin. Now, am I suggesting that people should stack Litecoin and not stack Satoshis or stack Bitcoins? No, I'm not. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying for me, as a trader and a crypto investor, stacking Litecoins makes a lot of sense compared to stacking only Bitcoin. I like to stack both because I think they both have a very good forecast for the future based on the VEPs and based on a lot of other things, mostly based on the fact that they're both very good for value transactions, which are not just monetary, but monetary transactions also fall into that category, obviously. Financial transactions, accounting, etc. They're all very well done, very well handled by the Bitcoin blockchain and the Litecoin blockchain, which is, after all, a direct fork of Bitcoin. So, to me, when you tell me here's an asset, there's only 4 times as many of them available as there are Bitcoin, and the vast majority of them are not yet in the hands of whales or big wallet holders, huge banks, central banks, financial institutions, governments, right? Litecoin is still vastly held by retail traders and retail investors and crypto aficionados, right? It's still held by small retail people, right? Small, financially small retail people who don't have millions or billions of dollars in crypto invested in crypto. Whereas Bitcoin is basically held by people who have 100 or more Bitcoin. They control 91% of all of the Bitcoin that can ever be. And retail investors only hold about 3%. Small wallet holders, people with less than 100 Bitcoin, only have about 3% of all the Bitcoin that can ever be. And of course, 100 Bitcoin is itself a lot, right? So if you were to actually reduce it down to a number where you see how much Bitcoin is held by people who have less than $1 million worth of Bitcoin, sorry, more than $1 million worth of Bitcoin, how much is held by retail, how much is held by wallets that have $1 million or more, that number is actually far more than 91%. So the actual number of people who don't have $1 million or more worth of Bitcoin, which is around 17 Bitcoin these days, is far less than 3%. Right? We're talking about a couple percent of all the Bitcoin is held by people who have like 1 to 2% tops is held by people who don't have $1 million or more worth of Bitcoin. Whereas Litecoin is mostly held by people who don't have millions of dollars worth in their wallets. So it is much more decentralized in terms of its distribution. And even though you can say, well, there's less Litecoin nodes than there are Bitcoin nodes, well, a little bit, maybe, but not much, because most people who are mining Bitcoin, right, usually they have multiple miners, and they're running Litecoin mining software on at least some percentage of their overall mining capacity. The reason for that is kind of obvious. It's a cheaper coin, cheaper to mine in the sense of there's 4 times as many coins delivered per successful block mined. There's a little bit less competition, not much, but a little bit less competition. So the probabilities and statistics of successfully mining a block are a little bit more in your favor. And yes, while the price, again, is only 0.1% of the orange gorilla, Litecoin is still, is a profitable coin to mine if you're a miner. And it is certainly a worthy coin to hold for the long term, in my opinion, compared to any other altcoin. Right? Now you can say, well, Ethereum is worth, 20 times the price or whatever. It's worth a few $1,000s, and Litecoin's only worth 60. Why don't I just stake Ethereum? You could. That's fine with me. I have no problem with whatever anybody does. I don't care. But in my opinion, Ethereum has a lot of problems, and it also is held largely by whales, which means it has less of a decentralized distribution in terms of who holds it. The people that hold Ethereum largely are people with significant sized wallets who don't have any interest in selling the majority or even a huge chunk of their Ethereum. They're just going to keep holding it and staking it, and they don't really need that money necessarily, and that's fine, no problem. But what it means is that retail investors can't get a significant portion of it ever, and it will forever be basically a coin favored by banks and governments, central banks and whales, and financial institutions. And that's why the derivatives were created, ETFs for Bitcoin and ETFs for Ethereum. That's why they were made, so that retail investors could get a portion or could get something like those assets without actually holding the underlying asset. They basically get a fiat equivalent, or an asset that's priced equivalently to the price of the underlying asset, but it's really just a fiat derivative of that asset, right? So that allows more people to put more money into a facsimile of crypto, but it's not actually crypto, right? It's just traditional market assets that are pegging a derivative of a crypto asset to that crypto's price. So, in other words, there's a lot more opportunity with Litecoin than there is with Bitcoin. Now, that isn't to say that I don't think Bitcoin won't do very well in the current climate over the coming years. I think it actually will do very well. And we might even see many multiple gains on it, right? We might even see it go 10x, 20x, 50x, 100x. It's possible, but it's far more likely that we'll see certain altcoins do that, of which, of course, if you're stacking gains from trades made with Bitcoin or made with altcoins, you can, of course, swap those for Satoshis or for whole Bitcoins and have a fatter bag of Satoshis and Bitcoins for the long term if that's where you like to be. But as far as I'm concerned, it makes a lot of sense to keep a split between the Bitcoin and the Litecoin I hold, because I think that in the long term, over the coming years, over the next 4 to 10 years, which is a very long time, but over the next 4 to 10 years, we'll probably see Litecoin do very well compared to the rate of return on Bitcoin, just because of what I've explained before, right? The fact that there's only 4 times as many of them, and the price is only 0.1% of the price of Bitcoin currently, and it has all of the same great qualities as Bitcoin. And it's completely swappable, and practically every exchange that offers Bitcoin offers Litecoin as well. And so does every wallet practically, except for the ones that are Bitcoin only wallets kind of thing. And you can easily swap them for extremely low fees. So just overall, it's a better value proposition, in my opinion, right? Again, I could be completely wrong. So you should not take what I'm saying as financial advice in any way, because it's not, right? But it's my opinion about what is likely to be a very good value proposition for what is, in my opinion, the leading altcoin. All right, so I think that's going to do it for now.